I was familiar with his process, but also at the same time, like a little kid, so excited to be working with him again, because I know he brings out the best in me.
Life goes on and the struggle goes on. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. And we have to get that Timothee guy.
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to start with something basic for both of you guys, which is just like, what was your familiarity with Dune before, kind of going into this movie?
There's always, I always feel a sense of guilt with my answer, because I don't want there to be a connection between that film and this film. But my first introduction to Dune was David Lynch's version of Dune. And that was kind of what stuck with me. And that's kind of what I thought it was, really, until this film came about, and I had gone back and reread the book and just had a totally different outlook on it. And after having the conversation with Denny, I knew this was going to be something different and something special unto its own. So that's why I don't like making the comparison. I want people to think that this is a reboot of that, because it's absolutely something different. It's something, of its own and very special in its own unique way. Not to dismiss that film at all, because it's just a fun film and I love it, but it's just completely different.
Yeah, I hadn't read the book. I knew of it, but I hadn't read it. So when my first experience was just reading the script. And then I went and read the book, of course. To film that book, you have to cut 90% of it out. And I knew that this will not be a Frank Herbert film. This will be a Denis Villeneuve film. And it's very personal. It's very, any good film has the solid personal stamp from the director. And this one really has.
Cool. Well, I want to ask you guys kind of each about your working relationship with Denis. Dave, I think I'll start with you, because I love your scene in Blade Runner 2049, even though that character's not around for very much. I don't know. Yeah. He so sticks out. He's got this kind of philosophical, nobility to him. And then Robin in Dune is completely different, and he's got kind of there's a little bit of like whiny rich kid to him. I don't know. I don't know. It just feels like you and Denis can make these really interesting collaborations. Maybe you get to hit some notes that you don't always get to hit.
And that's the truth. And it's, it's funny, because that small role in Blade Runner, it made people see me differently. And I really, I owe that to Denis completely, because it took some doing, winning that role and winning Denis over and having him see me as in the role of Sapper Morton. It was quite a process. But I had won the role. I got the audition, did it a certain way, and went and got the job and went and did it, that way. And when I got there, he changed up everything about my performance, which made it interesting for me, made it fun, because I still have an athlete mentality. So I like being coached, because I feel like it makes me a better athlete. So it's same with directing and performing. If I'm being directed in a way I feel like makes me a better performer, then I get hungry for that. That's why I'm in this one. That's why what I set out to work with, the best actors in the world, the best directors in the world, because I want to see how good I can be. And I can't find that out unless I get roles like this. So, which is why I was starving to work with Denis again. Like for years, I tracked everything that he was attached to or I was looking at. And this film, we waited forever, just for auditions to open up. And finally I just got a call from Denis, and, he offered me the role, and I almost broke down in tears, because it just meant so much to me. It just validated every decision I had made in my career. And, but I didn't overthink it this time. I didn't go to set prepared. I knew he was going to tell me who Raban was, and we were going to play him that way, and we were going to figure out who Raban was as we were going. So I was familiar with his process, but also at the same time, like a little kid, so excited to be working with him again, because I know he brings out the best in me. And I can't say that about everybody I've worked with, but I know Denis will focus on my performance, and he will direct me in a way that I really, at this point in my career, I really need. So, but thank you for acknowledging that Blade Runner scene.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, Stellan, I wanted to ask you, because I've talked to Denis about this movie a couple of weeks ago, and he raves about you and says that, he's loved you ever since he saw you in Breaking the Waves. I'm kind of interested how he kind of reached out to you. What was it like to hear about that?
Well, my agent called me and said that he wanted me, and of course I got interested immediately because I always wanted. I've seen his films, and I think he's a fantastic director. I didn't know him, but having learned to know him, you meet during your time. As I've made about 100 films or something, and I've met quite a few directors, and there are a few that you warm up to, and that you say that, well, I don't even have to read the script; just call me and I'll be there. And Denis is one of them. It's the way he works on the set. To be on his set is such a happy experience, because you're not afraid. You're not afraid to make mistakes. You're not afraid to be silly or anything, which gives you courage to do anything, you know. And you can try things. You can come up with silly ideas, and he lets you do them, and then he cuts them. And you know that his taste is impeccable.
Yeah.
Talking not just to actors, but some of the, you know, costume designers and production designers and stuff, it seems like this cool balance where on the one hand, Denis has such a personal connection to this material, as you were saying, and he has his own creative vision, but also seems open to other people's ideas or things you might come up with and be impressed
Definitely.
by.
No, he's very open, because he's not stupid. So anything that can benefit his vision, he takes. But it is his vision, and it has to be his vision. I'm not the kind of actor, and I don't approve of it, those actors that go on a set and they sort of take over the set and start making decisions, because they take away the only thing that is important if you want to make a true, a good quality art film. It has to be personal from the director, and no actor can take over that.
Awesome. Well, I kind of wanted to get into the characters a little bit. You know, you guys mentioned the book. Dave, you mentioned the Lynch movie. I think it's fair to say that sometimes the Harkonnens are in the book and movie. They can come off almost cartoonish to a certain degree, because it's just like, oh my God, these people are so evil. So how did you guys kind of go about you know, embodying that, making their danger maybe not as cartoonish, but kind of scary in a different way?
I mean, it wasn't really that hard, because it was, you know, a lot of it was there on the page for us in the script. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't overwritten. They didn't dive into it too much. Nothing was overplayed. Everything was very grounded. But also even, you know, through direction and through Stellan, you know, said something earlier, which really kind of stuck with me, and I hadn't really thought about it. But like, I've been on big sets. I've been on, you know, big practical sets that just had so much going on. They were huge and enormous. And these sets on Dune were as well, but they were so simplified and like stripped away of unnecessary gadgets, and that they just became dark and ominous, and it allowed us to just immerse ourselves into that world. But there's something, you know, special about that, and I can't take credit for any of that. I just you know, I showed up and put my faith in Denis, and I did as I was directed. So I don't want to take credit for any of that.
No, but when I see you in the film, what I see this monster that you are, but I see in your eyes that it's a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the important thing, to make them human, not to defend them, not to make them explain their tragic childhood that made them this way or something like that. It's just see the human in them. And that's why when we were discussing my makeup, it was important that it still was my face. So you saw this monster. He's human. He's one of us. Right. And you want the audience to know that the bad guy is one of us.
Right. That's what it is. It was just keeping everything grounded. And like people that, like, evil exists. There are people that are this evil. They're this greedy, and they, you know, hunger for power this much that they are willing to do things this bad. So I think that's it. It's really kind of showing the worst in humanity. You know, it's portraying that, and not in a silly way that is unbelievable, because it is believable. People can actually connect to this. They recognize these evil people. You know, we just we're performing it, but nothing's overstated. So it's not silly. It doesn't come across silly. It comes across as real and grounded.
A cartoon villain is never scary.
Not scary. No.
Mentioning makeup a little bit, I was just wondering if you guys could talk a little bit about, you know, the physical aspect of embodying these characters. I know there's something cool where like the Harkonnens have ruled the planet Dune, and they're trying to again, and so there's something even more disturbing about like how pale they are and how sickly they are, as if they don't spend any time, you know, outside on this planet. What did you guys kind of, what were kind of, I don't know, collaborations with like the costuming and makeup people kind of
from my perspective, there was no collaboration at all. It was a decision that was made.
Okay.
Hairless and pale.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a good idea, and I still think it is.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, and there's just something ominous about that look. But it wasn't a collaboration. It was.
Sure.
I think these are like one of the things I think Denny had a clear vision of how they would look. You know, who these characters would be physically. But yeah, no decision. But my makeup process was pretty simple. I, just had to shave. They had to fill me up and take away my eyebrows, and it didn't, take all of an hour and a half on a bad day. But Stellan had an experience. Yeah, a little bit more.
Yeah, with Stellan, I know that the some of the costume designers I talked to said that they were kind of using some Marlon Brando roles, like Apocalypse Now, kind of as a touch point for the Baron in this film.
That was in the discussion. Marlon Brando in the end of Apocalypse Now, but he looked like that. I didn't look like that. That's a big difference. That's what. So all the time on this shoot, I was, I wish I was Marlon Brando. No, but it's a good, and I think that there were some discussions for a while of having him in armor and stuff, but that only reduces him. I think this physical presence of that enormous body under that silky nightshirt or whatever it is he has, that's it. You don't need to change anything or add anything to that.
One of the most vivid scenes in the movie for me, certainly when it comes to the Harkonnens, is towards the end when the Baron is recuperating and he's in that big bath of like black goo. Was that something that you actually had to film or be in? Like, what was that like?
There's not much CGI in this film. It's the sets are real, we're real, and we're doing what you see. I mean, the flying I couldn't do without a crane, but otherwise, no, it was real goo, and I can tell you, it's not something you want to drown in. So when you go down under there, you think, I hope I can come up soon.
Kind of wanted to ask you, like, Dave, do you have kind of like a vivid memory of any scene or day on set in particular?
I think it was early on. I think even my first day was kind of stepping on stage with Dave Dismalchian, who's a close friend, and also with Stellan, who I never worked with, never met before, and was kind of awe-inspired by Stellan, and I'd be able to work with him. But also just stepping on and seeing, it was the steam bath when we were like in the steam room, stepping on, and I wasn't required. This was all about Stellan. We were focusing on Stellan. So I just got the best seat in the theater to sit there and watch Stellan work. And that was and this is, like, it's an education. I always look at everything like an education for me in acting and performing. So I just got there, and it felt so surreal. And even though I wasn't required to speak or perform, just be there, just be present in the scene, my heart was just pounding because I was so excited to be there and just be a part of it. So it was that. And that's, happens to me when I start on a film. It just, the nerves settling down. It takes me a while to really kind of settle into to a role. But that was my first day, just watching Stellan be the Baron, and like, this is actually happening, man. I'm here, yes, it's that, so like I'm jumping. I'm sitting there. I'm supposed to, on the scene, I'm just supposed to be this big ominous character who's not afraid of anything in the world, but inside I'm like a little girl, like jumping around, like screaming and celebrating.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I think kind of last question for you guys would just be, what are you looking forward to about the prospect of being able to do a second movie if that materializes, as I dearly hope it does?
Yeah, I really hope it gets done. I hope my role is even smaller in that one.
It's we're all sitting just waiting to proudly be able to say that yes, we're going to go into the sequel. Obviously, that's not have not been confirmed, but we know it's going to happen. I mean, come on. We all know it's going to happen. We just want the go ahead to start talking about it. But I'm super excited about it. I feel for Stellan. I understand. But, it's just, I want to see more from these characters. I want to see more from the Harkonnens. Unfortunately, that means Stellan has.
Well, they could kill the Baron off, and then you can take over the Harkonnens. And I'd like to see that.
Going to go that way. Wishful thinking, but no, they're just going to have to figure out an easier makeup process. Scale that down. They were to do a lot of just close-ups.
Oh yeah.
That's only 5 hours.
Yeah. Oh geez.
Less of the body prosthetic.
That's not going to work.
Awesome. Well, I believe that's my time, but thank you guys so much for letting me pick your brain for a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.